Hello, English learners. Welcome to English in Advance. I am Jessica, your host for today, and I'm so happy you've chosen to spend some time with me in this English learning video. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation in English where you knew deep down exactly what you wanted to say? The idea was perfectly clear in your mind. In your own language, it would have been a simple, fast, and natural sentence. But when you opened your mouth to speak English, it felt like everything slowed down. The words felt heavy, difficult, and just wrong. Maybe you found yourself pausing for a long, awkward moment, searching your mind for the right vocabulary. Perhaps you could almost feel the gears in your brain turning, working so hard to translate every single word, one by one, from your native language into English, if you've ever felt this way. I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not alone. This is a challenge that almost every single English learner on the planet faces at some point. And that's exactly what we are going to explore together today. We're going to talk about the habit of translating in your head while you speak. At first, this habit might seem helpful or even necessary, but in reality, it is one of the biggest obstacles standing between you and fluent, confident English. It's the invisible wall that makes speaking feel so hard. But please, don't worry, because there is very good news. This is a habit that you can change. You can train your brain to stop translating. And when you do, your experience with English will transform in a truly powerful way. Speaking will start to feel lighter, faster, and you will feel so much more confident. It will be like taking off a heavy backpack that you didn't even realize you were carrying all this time. By the end of our time together today, you will understand exactly why translating is a problem. And more importantly, you will have a clear, step-by-step plan to start thinking directly in English. This one change, this one shift in your mind can completely revolutionize your speaking skills. So please, get comfortable, maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's begin this important journey together. At first glance, translating seems like the most logical thing to do. You have an idea in your mind, in your native language, and you want to express that idea in English. So, of course, you translate. This is how most of us begin learning any new language. For example, you see a picture of an animal that says meow. In your language, you have a word for it. Your teacher then tells you, in English, this is a cat. Your brain makes a simple connection. Your word equals the English word. This method is very useful when you are a complete beginner. It helps you build a basic foundation of vocabulary, a collection of words. But as you start to grow, as you move from a beginner to an intermediate or advanced level, this habit of translating stops being helpful. In fact, it becomes a major barrier that blocks your path to fluency, to understand why. Let's look at what is actually happening inside your brain when you translate. Imagine a simple, everyday situation. You're at work, and you see an American colleague in the hallway. They smile at you and ask a very simple question. How was your weekend? Yeah, now. You want to answer. If you are still translating in your head, your brain has to perform 4 separate, difficult steps before you can even say a single word. First, you hear the English words. How was your weekend? and your brain quickly translates them into your own language so you can understand the question. Second, you think of your answer, but you think of it in your native language. Maybe you think something like, "It was nice. I went to the park with my children and we had a picnic." Third, now the hardest part begins. You have to translate your answer, word by word, from your language back into English. You search for the words nice, park, children, picnic. You try to remember the right grammar, the right sentence structure. Finally, after all that mental work, you speak the translated sentence out loud. This entire process might sound quick, but in a real conversation, it takes time. Even if it only takes 3 or 4 seconds, that's already too long. Normal conversations move quickly. They have a natural rhythm. While you are busy translating, the other person is just waiting. You might see a small change in their facial expression. You start to feel pressure. You get nervous, and the more nervous you feel, the harder it becomes to find the words you're looking for. Speaking English stops feeling relaxed and starts feeling heavy, stressful, and tiring. Instead of enjoying the connection with your colleague, you feel exhausted from the mental effort. To help you visualize this problem, think of it like running a race. Imagine you want to run a marathon, but before you can take a single step, you have to stop and solve a math problem. You take one step, then stop, solve a problem. Take another step, stop, solve another problem. Could you ever run a race like that? Of course not. You would move incredibly slowly, and you would feel completely exhausted after just a few minutes. You wouldn't be able to enjoy the feeling of running at all, because your mind would be stuck on the math problems, not on the race. That is exactly what happens when you translate in your head while speaking. The conversation is the race, and the act of translating is the extra, unnecessary math problem. With every single word, you are forcing your brain to do an extra job that it doesn't need to do. Now, here is the most important part. Native English speakers do not do this. When an American wants to talk about their weekend, they don't stop to translate from some other language. Their thoughts and their words flow together in one smooth, effortless motion. They think in English, and they speak in English and at the same time. And that is our goal for you. We want to help you reach that same point, where speaking English feels natural, automatic, and free. We know that translating makes you slow, but that is not the only problem. It also makes your English sound unnatural. This is because every language in the world has its own unique rules, its own special rhythm, and its own way of putting words together to form sentences. When you translate directly from your language into English, you accidentally bring your language's rules with you. The result is often a sentence that might be grammatically possible, but it just doesn't sound right to a native English speaker. Let me give you a very common example. In many languages, like French or Spanish, to express your age, you say something that literally translates to, "I have 30 years." So, a learner from one of those countries might say in English, "I have 30 years." An American listener will probably understand what they mean, but it will immediately sound incorrect and unnatural. The natural, correct way to say this in English is, "I am 30 years old." In English, we use the verb to be for age, not the verb to have. This is just one small difference. But there are thousands of these small differences between English and every other language, and when you translate, these differences create little moments of confusion or awkwardness, again and again. Let's make this even clearer with a story. Imagine a man named Leo. Leo moved from Italy to the United States for a new job. His English vocabulary was quite good. He could read technical documents for his work, and he could understand a lot when people spoke to him. But when it was his turn to speak, he really struggled. One afternoon, Leo needed to return a sweater he had bought online. He went to the store, and as he waited in the customer service line, he started preparing what he wanted to say in his head. First, he thought about it in Italian. Then, he started the slow process of translating, word by word. He carefully put the sentence together in his mind. I want to give back this sweater. When it was his turn, he walked up to the counter, smiled nervously at the employee, and said, "Hello, I want to give back this sweater." The employee, a friendly young woman, smiled back and said, "Of course. Do you want to make a return?" Leo was a little confused. He understood the word return, but his brain had worked so hard to build the phrase give back, and now he had to process a new word. He just nodded and handed her the sweater. What was the problem here? The problem wasn't Leo's vocabulary. He knew the right words. The problem was the natural phrasing. While an American would understand, give back this sweater, it's not the most common or natural way to say it. The standard phrase, the chunk of language that native speakers use automatically, is, "I'd like to make a return," or "I'd like to return this sweater." It's a small difference, but it immediately signals to the listener that Leo is thinking in another language and translating. It creates a tiny barrier in the flow of communication. The employee understood him, of course, but his English sounded less fluent, less natural. This is exactly what happens when you translate. The conversation is the race. And translating is that extra math problem you're forcing your brain to solve for every single word. It makes everything harder, heavier, and more stressful than it needs to be. Native English speakers don't have this extra step. Their thoughts and words move together in one smooth motion. They think in English, and they speak in English. Our goal is to help you reach that same place where speaking feels natural, light, and free. As we've seen, being slow is one problem, and sounding unnatural is another. Every language has its own music, its own rhythm, its own way of building sentences. When you translate directly from your language, you often carry your language's structure into English, and it doesn't quite fit. Let's look at another example. Agreeing with a negative statement. Imagine a friend says to you, "I don't like scary movies." If you feel the same way, many English learners will automatically say, "Me too." But in English, "me too" is used to agree with a positive statement. For example, "I like comedies." Me too. After a negative statement like, "I don't like scary movies," the natural response is, "Me neither." You could also say, "Neither do I." These are small, specific rules, but there are thousands of them. When you translate, you miss these important details, and these little misses can cause big problems in how natural you sound. Now let's look at a different kind of situation. Meet Sophia. a brilliant engineering student from Brazil. She came to a university in California for a semester abroad. Her academic English was fantastic. She could read scientific papers and write complex essays with no problem. But she quickly realized that social English, the kind of English her new friends used at lunch or at parties, was a completely different world. It was fast, filled with idioms, slang, and jokes that she didn't understand. One evening, Sophia went to a barbecue at a classmate's house. A friendly guy named Mark was talking about a difficult exam they all just had. He laughed and said, "I was so worried about that test, but it turned out to be a piece of cake." Sophia was completely confused. A piece of cake? She thought. She looked around the table. But there was no cake. She started thinking, why is he talking about cake? Was there a celebration with cake after the exam? Did I miss something? Her brain was working hard, trying to translate the literal words, cake, piece, and make a logical connection to the exam. While she was lost in her own head thinking, the conversation moved on. She missed the next part of the story. She stayed quiet, feeling lost and a little bit foolish, of course. A piece of cake is a very common idiom in American English. It simply means something was very easy. But because Sophia's brain immediately went into translation mode, the real meaning was completely lost. A few minutes later, another student was talking about her weekend plans. She said, "My friends want to go hiking, but I'm kind of on the fence about it." In Sophia's mind, she immediately pictured the girl literally sitting on top of a wooden fence in a garden. She thought, why would she be sitting on a fence? Is this a metaphor? What does this mean? Again, she was confused. In English, being on the fence means you are undecided. You haven't made a choice. The girl wasn't sure if she wanted to go hiking or not. These little moments of confusion kept happening all evening. Someone would tell a joke. Sophia would translate the words in her head. The literal meaning wouldn't make any sense. And so the joke wasn't funny to her. Everyone else would laugh, and Sophia would just offer a small, nervous smile, pretending that she understood. She felt like she was always 2 steps behind everyone else, stuck inside her own head, translating, analyzing, and missing the real, live moment of connection. Even though she was surrounded by people, she felt very lonely. Her excellent vocabulary wasn't helping her connect with people in real time. Sophia's problem shows us a very important truth. The habit of translation completely fails when it comes to idioms, slang, and humor. These parts of a language are not built from the literal meanings of individual words. They are built from shared culture, shared images, and common phrases that have a special meaning when they are used together. If you try to translate a phrase like, "It's raining cats and dogs," word for word into another language, it sounds ridiculous. But native speakers don't hear the individual words. They hear the whole phrase as one single chunk of meaning. "It's raining cats and dogs" simply equals, "It's raining very hard." You don't translate it. You recognize it. And this is the big idea we need to understand. To become fluent, you must learn to use and recognize these chunks, these fixed phrases, these common combinations of words, so that your brain doesn't have to build every single sentence from zero, one word at a time. A large coffee, not a coffee large. I'm on the fence, not I'm sitting on a fence. A piece of cake means very easy. Me neither. is used after a negative sentence. When you start to store these phrases in your brain as ready-made pieces, you stop translating and you start recognizing. And recognition is fast, while translation is slow. These examples, from Leo trying to return a sweater to Sophia, trying to make friends at a barbecue, show us something incredibly important. A language is not just a collection of words. You cannot simply swap words from your language for English words, like changing the pieces in a puzzle. A language is a complete system. It's a unique way of seeing the world and expressing ideas. When you begin to think in English, you start to understand that system from the inside. You don't just memorize rules, you start to feel them. You develop a natural sense of what sounds right and what sounds wrong. You stop building your sentences word by word, and instead, you start using chunks. These ready-made phrases that English speakers use all the time without even thinking about it. For Leo at the store, a native speaker wouldn't slowly think, I want to return this sweater. No, their brain would just grab one pre-built block. I'd like to make a return. For Sophia's classmates, a piece of cake isn't 3 separate words to translate. It is one single block of meaning that equals very easy. This is the true key to fluency. It's learning to see English not as single, separate words, but as blocks, chunks, and patterns. When you start to think in these chunks, you finally stop translating, and you truly start speaking. So, how do we actually do it? How do we train our brains to see and use these chunks of language, to understand the process? We need to talk a little bit about how your brain works when you're learning a language. You can think of your brain as having 2 different modes of operation, student mode and native speaker mode. First, let's talk about student mode. This is the conscious, analytical part of your brain. It's the part that loves to study grammar rules, read charts, and make long lists of vocabulary words. When you are translating in your head, you are using student mode. Student mode is very logical, organized, and careful. It analyzes every sentence piece by piece, but it is also very, very slow. Think of it like building a detailed model airplane. You sit down with an instruction manual, and for every tiny piece you attach, you have to carefully check the rules. Yes, you can eventually build the airplane this way, but it takes a lot of time and intense focus. And of course, you could never build it fast enough to keep up with a real airplane flying in the sky. That's the problem with student mode. It's useful for studying, but it's not effective for real-time conversation. The second mode is native speaker mode. This is the subconscious, automatic part of your brain. It's the same mode you used as a small child when you learned your first language. Think about it. When you were 3 years old, did you sit in a classroom memorizing grammar rules? Did your parents show you a chart of verb tenses? Of course not. You learn naturally by listening, by watching, by connecting words directly to actions, objects, and feelings. You didn't learn a rule that says adjectives come before nouns. You just heard your parents say a big dog or a red ball thousands of times until it just felt right. Your brain, operating in native speaker mode, was recognizing patterns and absorbing the language automatically. That's why children don't sound like walking textbooks. They sound natural. Native speaker mode is incredibly fast. It's intuitive. and it never seems to get tired. It just knows what sounds right. So, here is the real secret. The key to speaking English fluently, faster, and more naturally is to learn how to switch from your slow, careful student mode to your fast, automatic native speaker mode. But here's the problem. Translating keeps you trapped in student mode. Every time you translate, you are essentially telling your brain, hey, use the slow process, check the rules, match the words one by one. This means you are practicing the habit of analyzing, not the skill of speaking. To activate your native speaker mode, you have to feed it the right kind of fuel. You have to give it real English phrases, chunks, and patterns. And you have to start practicing thinking directly in English, even if you start with very simple thoughts. Let's use another analogy. Learning to drive a car. At the beginning, everything feels slow, stressful, and complicated. You have to consciously think about every single step. Okay, put the key in the ignition, check the mirrors, put my foot on the brake, slowly press the gas pedal. It feels incredibly difficult because you are completely in student mode, but after enough practice, something amazing happens. You stop thinking about each tiny step. You just drive. You can listen to music, talk to a friend in the passenger seat, and still drive safely. That's what happens when you shift into your expert, automatic mode. The skills have become a part of you. Speaking English fluently works in exactly the same way. When you first start driving, you are in student mode. You think about every action, step by step. Okay, first, I put my foot on the brake, then I press the start button. Now I need to check my mirrors. Okay, mirrors are good. Now I move the gear shift to drive. Now I slowly, very slowly, lift my foot off the brake. It's a long, stressful process. You can't listen to a podcast. You can't talk to anyone. All of your mental energy is focused on the task of driving. But what happens after a few years of practice? You get in the car and you just drive. You don't think about the steps anymore. You can have a conversation with a friend, listen to the news, even sip your morning coffee, all while driving safely. Your expert driver mode, your automatic mode, has taken over. The actions have become natural. You see a red light up ahead, and your foot moves to the brake before you even consciously think about it. Speaking a language fluently is just like driving a car. At first, everything feels slow and heavy because you are stuck in student mode, translating every word, thinking about every grammar rule. But true fluency arrives when you switch to native speaker mode. This is when the words just seem to come out automatically, without effort, without stress. Your goal is to make speaking English as automatic as driving your car. And the way to do that is simple in concept. Practice thinking in English. Every time you form a thought in English, you are doing one repetition, one small exercise. To train that automatic part of your brain, let me tell you about a woman named Maria. Maria was a very smart software developer from Argentina. She got a fantastic job at a tech company in Austin, Texas. Her technical skills were top-notch, but she had one big problem. She was always silent during team meetings. And why? Because the meetings were incredibly fast. Her American colleagues would discuss complex ideas, jumping quickly from one topic to the next. Maria tried her best to keep up, but here is what was happening inside her head. First, she would listen to what her colleagues said in English. Then, she would translate it all into Spanish to make sure she understood. Then, she would form her own idea or opinion in Spanish. After that, she would try to translate her idea back into English, searching for the right words and grammar. And by the time she was finally ready to speak, the conversation had already moved on to a completely new topic. She felt so frustrated. She knew she had good ideas, valuable contributions, but she couldn't share them in time. She was trapped in student mode. One day, her manager, a kind man named Tom, noticed her frustration. He took her aside after a meeting and gave her some friendly advice. He said, "Maria, I know you have great ideas. I want you to try something different this week. Don't even worry about speaking in the meetings. Just listen. But I want you to listen in a new way. Don't just listen for the meaning. Listen for the exact phrases, the specific groups of words that the other engineers use again and again." Maria thought this was an interesting idea, so she decided to try it. She brought a small notebook to every meeting. She didn't focus on grammar. She didn't try to translate. She just listened carefully and wrote down the exact chunks of language people used. Here are some of the phrases she collected in her notebook. Let's put a pin in that for now. She realized this meant, let's pause this discussion and come back to it later. She heard, what's the bandwidth for this project? And understood it meant, do we have enough time or people to do this? She also wrote down, let's circle back to this offline, which meant, let's talk about this privately later, not in front of the whole group. Maria filled pages of her notebook with these real-world chunks of English. In the evenings, she would review them. She practiced saying them out loud. She didn't translate them into Spanish. Instead, she worked on connecting the English phrase directly to the situation. For her, let's put a pin in that became directly connected to the feeling of pausing a discussion. Bandwidth became connected to the concept of time and resources. Circle back became connected to the action of returning to a topic later. What happened next was amazing. The following week, Maria was in another meeting. Two of the engineers started having a long debate about a very small, unimportant detail. The meeting was getting off track. In the past, Maria would have stayed silent, trying to translate her thoughts about why this was a waste of time. But this time, she remembered one of the phrases she had practiced. She took a small breath, raised her hand slightly, and said, maybe we could put a pin in that for now and come back to it later. The two engineers immediately stopped, nodded, and one said, yeah, good idea. The meeting moved forward. Maria felt a huge wave of relief and confidence. She had contributed to the conversation, smoothly and naturally. She didn't translate. She didn't overthink. She just used the chunks she had learned. That one small success gave her the confidence to try more. She started using more of the phrases from her notebook, and little by little, day by day, meeting by meeting, she stopped translating and started thinking directly in English. Once you feel comfortable with single words, once it starts to feel natural to look at a book on your table and have the thought book appear in your mind instantly, you are ready for level 2. Now, we move from single words to very simple sentences. For this step, you are going to become the narrator of your own life. This means that as you go through your daily routines, you will describe what you are doing in your head, in English, using the simplest language possible. This is level 2, the narrator game. Think of it like turning your life into a short movie, and you are providing the voiceover narration. For example, imagine you are getting ready in the morning. Your internal monologue in English would be, I am opening my eyes. I am turning off the alarm. I am sitting up. I am standing up. I am going to the bathroom. I am brushing my teeth. I am washing my face. Keep the sentences short. Keep them simple. You are not trying to write a beautiful novel. You are not trying to be grammatically perfect. You are simply training your brain to connect your actions with English words automatically, without a middle step. Why does this work so well? At first, it will feel a little slow and maybe even strange. You might have to pause and think, wait, how do I say that? That is perfectly okay. The most important part is that you are not translating from your native language. When you are brushing your teeth, you are not thinking in your language. I am brushing my teeth. And then translating it. You are just thinking the English sentence. I am brushing my teeth. The action and the English phrase become one single unit, one chunk. This is the exact same process Maria used in her meetings. She connected a situation directly with an English phrase. You are now doing the same thing, but with your everyday life. Here's a practical tip. Don't try to narrate your entire day. That will be overwhelming and you will give up. Instead, just choose one small routine to focus on each day. For example, today. Just narrate the process of making your breakfast. Tomorrow, narrate the process of getting dressed. The next day, narrate your walk from your house to the bus stop. Just a few simple sentences each day is enough. The power of this exercise comes from daily repetition, not from difficulty. It might sound something like this. When you wake up in the morning, your inner voice in English could go step by step. I am waking up now. I feel a little tired. I am turning off my alarm. I am opening my eyes. I am sitting up in my bed. My feet are touching the floor. I am standing up now. I am walking to the bathroom. I am opening the door. I am turning on the light. I am looking in the mirror. I am picking up my toothbrush. I am putting toothpaste on it. I am brushing my teeth now. Do you see how simple this is? Each thought is a short, direct English sentence. You don't need to translate. You just connect the action directly with the words in English. You can do this with any daily activity. Let's try another one. Making your morning coffee. Your thoughts could be, I need some coffee. I am walking to the kitchen. I am opening the cabinet. I am taking out my favorite mug. I am holding the mug. I am getting the coffee grounds. I am pouring hot water into the mug. I can see the steam rising. I am adding a little sugar. I am adding milk. I am stirring the coffee with a spoon. I am smelling the coffee now. I feel happy. These sentences are very simple, almost like something a child might say. And that is perfect. That is exactly what we want at this stage. Please, do not worry about grammar. Do not worry about making mistakes. Nobody can hear your thoughts. This is your private, safe practice space. The only goal is to get your brain used to the feeling of English flowing through it, one small sentence at a time. After you have practiced this for a while, you can move on to level 3. At this level, you go beyond just describing actions. You start describing the world around you and your feelings. You begin to use your 5 senses. In English, what do you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. For example, imagine you are sitting on a bench in a park. Your internal monologue might be, "I am sitting on a bench. The sun feels warm on my skin. I see a big tree. The tree has green leaves. The leaves are moving in the wind. I can hear birds singing. A man is walking with his dog. The dog is small and white. The dog is running very fast. The dog looks happy. I feel happy too. I feel peaceful here." Or, imagine you are looking out your window on a rainy day. Your thoughts could be, "It is raining now. The sky is gray. I see raindrops on the window. I can hear the sound of the rain. It is a soft sound. The rain makes me feel calm. I feel a little sleepy. I want to drink a hot cup of tea." This step is incredibly powerful because you are not just describing objects, you are connecting the English language directly to your emotions and your senses. This makes English more personal, more alive, and much easier for your brain to remember. When you feel comfortable with that, you can move to level 4. Level 4 is all about making simple decisions and plans in English. Life is full of small choices, and you can use your English inner voice to make them. For example, when you're getting dressed in the morning, your thoughts might be, "What should I wear today? I could wear the blue shirt, or I could wear the red shirt. The blue shirt is comfortable. The red shirt is new. I think I want to wear the red shirt today. Yes? That's a good choice." Or, when you are thinking about what to eat for lunch, "I am hungry now. I should eat something. What can I eat? I can make a sandwich, or I can make a salad. A sandwich is fast. A salad is healthy. I want to be healthy today. I will make a salad." This may feel a little strange at first, but it is excellent practice. You are no longer just a passive observer describing your world. Now you are actively interacting with your world. In English, you are thinking, choosing, and deciding, all in English. So, step by step, you build up your skill. You go from level 1, labeling object, chair, table, lamp, to level 2, narrating your actions. "I am brushing my teeth." To level 3, describing your world and your feelings. "The sun is warm. I feel happy." And finally, to level 4, making decisions in English. "I will eat a salad today." This is the clear path to stop translating and start truly, genuinely thinking in English. Let's go back to our friend Leo for a moment. After his awkward experience at the store, he felt a little discouraged. He thought to himself, "Maybe I will never be able to speak English naturally." But instead of giving up, Leo decided to try these new techniques. He started with level 1. At first, it felt very silly. He was an engineer, a professional adult with a serious job, and here he was, walking around his apartment and pointing at things like a small child. "This is a table. This is a chair. This is a sofa. This is a window." It made him laugh at himself, but he kept doing it every day. After a few days, he moved to level 2, narrating his actions. In the kitchen, he thought to himself in English, "I am cooking dinner now. I am cutting onions. The onions are making my eyes water. I don't like cutting onions." He laughed at himself again because the sentences sounded so simple. But he started to notice something important. The English words were beginning to come to his mind a little bit faster each day. Then one morning, while he was making breakfast, he tried level 4, making decisions. "I will have eggs today. Do I want scrambled eggs or fried eggs? Scrambled eggs are easier. I will make scrambled eggs. He smiled to himself because it felt so natural, like he was actually thinking in English without forcing it. And then, something amazing happened. His phone started ringing. It was his American boss. Leo answered nervously. His boss asked him a quick question about a project, and before Leo even realized what he was doing, without translating a single word, he answered directly in English. It wasn't a long answer. It wasn't a complicated answer. But it was fast, it was natural, and it felt incredible. When he hung up the phone, he just sat there in shock. I didn't translate, he thought. I just answered. That was the moment Leo knew that the daily practice was working. The simple, daily habit of thinking simple English sentences in his head was already building that direct connection in his brain. He was starting to activate his native speaker mode. This isn't magic. It is training. It is giving your brain the right kind of exercise. Consistently, step by step. He was teaching his brain to think in English instead of just translating from Italian. Now, learning to think in English is the foundation. It's like building the strong base of a house. But once that foundation is solid, you need to build the rest of the house on top of it. To really stop translating for good, you need to make English a bigger part of your world. You need to create an environment around you where English is everywhere, so your brain sees it, hears it, and uses it every single day until it starts to feel completely normal, even comfortable. This powerful technique is called immersion. Why is immersion so effective? Because it taps into your brain's natural, effortless ability to learn. Think about it. You don't always need to be sitting down and actively studying. When you surround yourself with English, your brain starts to absorb it automatically, almost like a sponge. It starts to hear the rhythm of the sentences. It begins to notice the common patterns. It catches the natural ways that words are put together. Even when you're not consciously trying to learn, your brain is still learning in the background. It's like learning through osmosis. You just soak the language in by being around it. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, "But Jessica, I don't live in the United States or the UK. How can I possibly immerse myself in English?" That is a very common and understandable thought. But the truth is, with today's amazing technology, you can create your own personal English world, your own English bubble, no matter where you live on the planet. Let's start with the one device you probably use more than anything else every single day, your smartphone. Here is a very simple but very powerful challenge for you. After you finish listening to this session, I want you to go into your phone settings and change the language to English. Yes, I know. It might feel a little scary at first. You might worry. What if I don't understand something important? But think about it for a moment. You already know what all the icons mean. You know what the little picture of a camera means. You know what the green message bubble means. Now, when you see the word messages or camera or send in English next to those icons, your brain will start to connect the English words directly with the functions you already know. You won't need to translate. You will just see the word and understand it. Over time, common words like settings, clock, alarm, battery, save, and cancel will become completely automatic for you. You won't even notice you're reading in English anymore. That is the first small but powerful step to building your English bubble. Now, let's keep building that English bubble. You have already changed your smartphone to English. That is a fantastic first step. But now, let's expand this bubble to your computer. Change your computer's operating system language to English. Change the language of your web browser to English as well. Yes, it might feel a little uncomfortable for the first day or two. But remember, you already know where all the menus and buttons are. You have clicked on File, Save, Copy, and Paste 1,000 times in your own language. Now, when you see those same options in English, your brain will automatically start connecting the English word to the action. Then, take one more simple but powerful step. Set your web browser's homepage to an English language news website, like the New York Times or the BBC, or a blog that is related to your hobbies or interests. Think about the impact of this. Every single time you open your browser, instead of seeing comfortable headlines in your native language, you will see headlines in English. Even if you don't read the full articles, even if you just scan the headlines for a few seconds, you are feeding your brain more English without any extra effort. It's one tiny change, but when it's repeated dozens of times every week, it becomes a huge source of passive learning. Now, let's go even further. Let's talk about social media. Change the language settings on your Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok to English. Suddenly, all the buttons, menus, and notifications will be in English. You don't even have to study them. Your understanding will become automatic through daily use. But don't just stop with the settings. Actively change the content you consume. This is where immersion becomes really fun. Follow a few American actors or musicians that you admire. Subscribe to English language news pages. But most importantly, connect English to your passions. If you love cooking, follow an American or British chef on Instagram. If you love video games, follow an English-speaking streamer on Twitch. If you love gardening, follow a gardening channel from the UK on YouTube. When you do this, English is no longer just a subject you have to study. It becomes a part of your hobbies, your entertainment, and your relaxation. Suddenly, you are not forcing yourself to practice. You are simply enjoying English while you are enjoying your favorite topics. Now let's talk about what you listen to. Everyday moments like your commute to work, your time at the gym, or even when you're doing chores around the house, can all become valuable learning opportunities. Start with music. Find a few singers or bands from the US or the UK that you really enjoy. Don't worry about understanding every single word at first. Here is a simple weekly exercise you can try. Step 1. Choose one new English song each week. Step 2. For the first few days, just listen to it and enjoy the melody. Step 3. After a few days, look up the lyrics online. Listen to the song again while you read the lyrics. You will be amazed at how many words you already recognize. Step 4. Finally, sing along. Why is singing so important? Because singing is powerful practice. It helps with your pronunciation, your rhythm, and even your confidence. And it naturally teaches you common contractions that native speakers use, like hearing gonna instead of going to, or wanna instead of want to. But music is only the beginning. The world of podcasts and audiobooks is perhaps the greatest immersion tool you have at your disposal. There is an English language podcast for every possible interest you can imagine. Do you like history, true crime, science, comedy, sports, or motivation? And you can find hundreds of podcasts in English on that topic. And because you already love the topic, you will be motivated to keep listening, even when it feels a little difficult. At first, you might only understand 50% of what is being said. That is completely fine. Your brain will adapt. Week by week, that 50% will grow to 70%, then 80%, and then even more. Audiobooks are another incredible tool. A great way to start with audiobooks is to choose a book that you have already read and loved in your native language. Because you already know the story, you can relax and just let the English words flow into your ears. You don't have to struggle to understand the plot. You can just focus on the language. Listen while you drive, while you cook, while you clean, or while you exercise. It is an almost effortless way to add hours and hours of English listening practice into your busy week. And of course, we have to talk about movies and TV shows, but we need to be strategic about how we use them. The wrong way to watch is with subtitles in your native language. This only trains your brain to read in your language, and it strengthens the habit of translating. The right way to watch is with English subtitles. This way, your ears are hearing the spoken English while your eyes are seeing the written English. The sound and the text connect in your brain. This is a very powerful combination for learning. A great tip is to start with movies or TV shows that you have already seen in your own language. Again, because you already know the story, you can relax and focus on the English words and phrases. Another smart idea is to begin with content that was made for younger audiences, like animated movies from Disney or Pixar. The language in these films is often very clear, simple, and easy to understand. But it is still real, natural, and fun. But don't just sit back and watch passively. Try this little exercise. When a scene in a movie finishes, press the pause button. Then, in 1 or 2 simple English sentences, summarize what just happened. You can do this in your head, or you can say it out loud. For example, the girl found a lost dog. The boy is afraid of the storm. They are eating dinner together. That's it. The sentences can be very simple. You don't need to be complex. The goal is to practice noticing the story in English and then expressing that story in English. One day, your goal should be to watch an entire movie with no subtitles at all. Just like a native speaker. It won't happen overnight, but if you practice regularly, you will be amazed at your progress. By creating this digital English bubble with your phone, your social media, your podcasts, your music, and your movies, you are sending a powerful and consistent message to your brain. That message is, English is important. English is a part of our life now, and your brain, being the amazing organ that it is, will believe you. It will adapt. It will start to treat English as something natural, not as something foreign. This brings us to another very important technique. This one is about the tools you use to learn. Think about what usually happens when you are reading an article in English and you see a new word that you don't understand. What is the first thing you do? Most people immediately pull out their phone and open a translation app. They type the word in English, and the app instantly gives them the word in their own language. Yes, this seems fast and easy, but here is the hidden problem. Every single time you do this, you are practicing the act of translation. You are teaching your brain to go from English to your language and back to English. You are strengthening the exact habit that we are trying to break. From now on, I want you to try something different. I want you to start using an English-to-English dictionary, which is also called a monolingual dictionary. A learner's dictionary is the best choice because it explains words using simple, easy-to-understand English. Some excellent free ones you can find online are the Merriam-Webster Learner's Dictionary, the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, and the Cambridge Learner's Dictionary. Here's how it works. Let's say you find the word enormous in an article. If you used a bilingual or translation dictionary, you would look it up and see the word for it in your own language. The process is finished, but your brain has just jumped out of English and back into your native language. Instead, let's try opening your English-to-English Learner's Dictionary. You will see a definition that looks something like this: enormous adjective, extremely large, very, very big. Do you see what just happened? You learned the meaning of a new, more advanced word, enormous, by connecting it to simpler English words that you already know: large, very, big. You never left the English language. You stayed inside your English bubble. This is so powerful because it builds a rich network of connections between English words in your brain. Now, in your mind, the word enormous is linked to the words big and large. Later, when you want to speak, your brain won't have to search for the word in your native language. Instead, it will be able to jump from big to large to enormous. Automatically, all within English. This makes the word much easier to remember and much easier to use naturally when you are speaking. At first, using an English-to-English dictionary might feel a little bit slower. It may take a little more time and effort than a quick translation app, but the long-term benefits are enormous. You are not just learning the meaning of one word. You are training your brain to think in English, to understand in English, and to define your world in English. This is a huge shift in your learning process, and it is one of the most important steps you can take to break the translation habit for good. So now, you've started to change your environment through digital immersion. You've started to change your tools by using an English-to-English dictionary. This is fantastic. You are training your brain, step by step, to live inside the world of English. Now you are ready to move into the most important phase of all: active practice. This is where your English-thinking brain finally meets your mouth. It's time to start making sounds, not just thinking silent words. The first technique is about learning language in the same way that native speakers do, not as individual, separate words, but as phrases or chunks. Think about it like building a house. If you decide to build a house by laying every single brick one by one, you can do it, but it will take a very, very long time. Native speakers don't build their language that way. They use pre-built sections, walls that are already assembled, windows that are already in their frames, doors that are already hung. Chunks of language are like those pre-built sections. They are small groups of words that native speakers almost always use together. Using these chunks makes your speech fast, strong, and natural. For example, phrases like, "by the way," on the other hand, or "I see what you mean." When we speak, we don't think about the individual words in these phrases. Our brain just grabs the whole chunk as one single unit. So, how do you find these chunks? You become a language detective. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find and collect these chunks wherever real English is spoken. When you watch a movie, when you listen to a podcast, have a special notebook ready, just for collecting chunks. Here's a great exercise. Find a short conversation, maybe just 2 minutes long, from a TV show you like. Listen to it once just to understand the general idea. Then, listen again. And this time, write down all the small groups of words, 2, 3, or 4 words, that seem to stick together. You will be surprised at how many you can find, but don't just write down a random list of phrases. Organize them by situation. This turns them into useful tools that you can use in real conversations. For example, you could have a page in your notebook for expressing opinions. On that page, you might collect chunks like, in my opinion, the way I see it, if you ask me, or, to be perfectly honest. You could have another page for managing a conversation. There you could write, anyway, as I was saying. Speaking of which, or, sorry to interrupt, but. By learning phrases in this organized way, you are preparing your brain for real-life conversations instead of just memorizing isolated words. Of course, collecting phrases is only half the job. You have to practice them. Try the chunk of the day method. Every morning, choose just one chunk from your notebook. Your mission for that day is to use it as much as possible. Say it out loud to yourself. Use it in your internal monologue while you're making coffee. Try to use it in a 2-minute voice journal at night. And for each chunk, create 3 of your own original example sentences. This process is what turns a chunk from something you just recognize into something you can actually use. Now, for the next technique. This one might feel a little strange at first, but it is one of the most powerful exercises you can do. It improves your fluency, your pronunciation, your confidence, and it directly helps to stop the translation habit in your brain. It's called shadowing. Think of shadowing as taking your mouth to the gym. It is a physical exercise. The goal is to build muscle memory in your tongue, your jaw, and your lips. Not to think about grammar or meaning. So, how does shadowing work? You listen to a recording of someone speaking English, and you speak out loud at the exact same time, like you are their echo or their shadow. Here is a simple 5-step guide to get you started. Step 1. Choose your material wisely. Find a short audio or video clip, maybe 1 to 3 minutes long. TED Talks, news reports, or scenes from movies are perfect for this. The most important thing is that the speaker is clear, and you can find an accurate transcript of what they are saying. Step 2. The first listen. The first time you play your audio or video clip, just listen. Don't speak yet. Your only goal is to understand the general topic. What is it about? What is the main idea? This step is just about warming up your brain to the sounds of English. Step 3, read along. Now, play the clip again. But this time, read the transcript out loud while the speaker is talking. It's kind of like karaoke. You are matching the sounds you hear with the words you see on the page. Try your best to match the speaker's pace and rhythm. Do this 2 or 3 times. Each time you do it, your mouth and your brain will get more and more familiar with how natural English is spoken. This step connects your eyes, your ears, and your mouth all together, making the language feel more natural to you. Step 4, the shadowing. This is the real workout. Now, Put the transcript away, play the audio again, and speak along with it. Just a second or two behind the speaker, your voice is their shadow, copying their rhythm, their pauses, and their tone. At first, it will feel messy. You will miss words. You will fall behind. That is completely normal and expected. Do not worry about making mistakes. Your goal is not to understand every single word. Your goal is to practice the rhythm, the melody, and the flow, the music of the English language. Step 5, the solo performance. After you have shadowed the clip a few times, turn the audio off completely. Look at the transcript and try to read a few of the sentences out loud on your own. But don't just read the words. Try to imitate the speaker's voice, their intonation, and their emotion from your memory. This final step helps your brain to internalize the sounds of natural English, so you can begin to produce them yourself in a smooth, confident way. Now, there are some common problems with shadowing. You might think, the speaker is too fast. Don't panic. Most apps like YouTube or podcast players have a feature that lets you slow down the playback speed. Try listening at 0.75 times speed. Another common thought is, I don't understand what I'm saying. That is okay. Remember, shadowing is not a comprehension exercise. It is a pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency exercise. Even just 5 to 10 minutes of shadowing every day can produce amazing results. It's so effective because it's fast. Your brain has no time to stop and translate. It builds a direct connection between your ears and your mouth, bypassing that slow, translation-filled route in your brain. It may feel strange at first, but I promise you, the results will be incredible. Now you are thinking in English, you are shadowing, you are learning in chunks, you are training your brain and you are training your mouth. But all of this practice is like a sports team training hard for the big game. The real progress, the real improvement happens when you actually get on the field and play. Real fluency happens when you start speaking with real people. I know. This can feel very scary. Practicing alone in your room is safe. No one can hear your mistakes. But speaking with a native speaker, that is a completely different feeling. You might worry about making mistakes. You might worry about pausing for too long. You might worry about saying something that sounds silly. This fear is 100% normal. In fact, this fear is the biggest wall that stands between most English learners and true fluency. To overcome it, we first need to understand the fear. The fear you feel is not really about your English skills. It is about the fear of being judged. You feel like everyone is watching you, analyzing every word you say. You worry that you will look foolish. Psychologists have a name for this feeling. It's called the spotlight effect. It's the belief that we are being noticed more than we really are. The reality is that bright spotlight is mostly just in your own mind. Most people are busy thinking about themselves and about what they are going to say next, not judging you. Once you truly understand this, you can start to break down that wall of fear, one brick at a time. Most people are not your judge. They are your conversation partner, not your teacher or your examiner. Another part of the fear comes from our identity. In your native language, you are smart, funny, and confident. You worry that when you speak English, you might sound like a child, simple and slow. You might worry that other people will see you as less intelligent. The first step is to simply acknowledge this fear. It is okay to feel it, But you must remind yourself, your intelligence and your English level are two completely separate things. The next step is to change your goal. Many learners think that the goal of a conversation is to have perfect grammar and a perfect accent. That is the wrong goal. It's an impossible goal. Even native speakers don't speak perfectly. The real goal of a conversation is simple: communication. Did the other person understand your message? Did you understand their message? If the answer is yes, then you have succeeded. Mistakes do not matter. Grammar errors or forgetting a word do not mean you have failed. Think about a baby learning to walk. A baby does not stand up and walk perfectly on the first try. They fall down hundreds of times, but each time they fall, they learn something new. Mistakes are lessons. In English, mistakes are your best teachers. You should welcome them. Now for some practical strategies to build your confidence. 1. Start small. Begin with low-stakes conversations. Don't make your first real conversation a job interview or a big presentation at work. Start with something small and predictable. At a coffee shop, practice saying, "Hello, how are you today?" At the grocery store, ask the cashier, "Did you have a busy day?" These short, simple interactions are safe victories, and each small victory builds your confidence. 2. Become a great listener. When you feel nervous, shift your focus to listening instead of speaking. Asking good questions takes the pressure off of you. And besides, people love to talk about themselves. Prepare a few open-ended questions you can use, like, "What project are you excited about at work this week?" Or, "What's the best thing that happened to you recently?" This helps to keep the conversation flowing, and it gives you more time to listen and think in English. 3. Set a mistake goal. This is a strange but very effective mind trick. Before you enter a conversation, tell yourself, "My goal for this conversation is to make 10 mistakes." It sounds funny, but it really works. Instead of worrying about being perfect, you are now giving yourself permission to make mistakes. This frees your mind and allows you to speak more naturally. You can try new words. You can be playful. You might even find that it's hard to make 10 mistakes because you feel so relaxed. 4. Prepare an escape phrase. Sometimes, right in the middle of speaking, your mind just goes blank. It happens to everyone. You might start to panic. To avoid this, have a simple phrase ready that you can use anytime. Something like, "Let me think for a second." Or, "How do I say this in English?" Or, "I'm not sure of the exact word, but I think." This gives you a safety net. It buys you a moment to think, and it helps you continue speaking even if you forget a word. These simple strategies can help you move past your fear, embrace your mistakes, and start speaking English more naturally. The key is to practice step by step, gradually building your confidence and realizing that conversation is about connection and communication, not about perfection. Your body language is also very important. A friendly smile tells the other person that you are happy to be talking with them. It also makes them more patient and more helpful. Remember, speaking English is not an exam. It is a way to connect with other human beings. So please, be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your small victories. After you have a 15-minute conversation in English, don't focus on the mistakes you made. Focus on the fact that you did it. You faced your fear, and you communicated in another language. That is a huge accomplishment, and you should be proud of yourself. As you build more confidence, you might start to ask yourself, what's next? You have built a strong foundation. You are thinking in English. Now, you can start to think in English at a higher, more complex level. Here are some advanced tips to accelerate your progress. 1. Be a curious translator of your own thoughts. I know. We've spent this whole time talking about why you shouldn't translate. But this is a new kind of translation. This is active and curious, not passive and word for word. It is about actively finding the exact English words and phrases that you need for your specific life. As you go about your day, notice the interesting or complex thoughts you have in your native language. Then, ask yourself the question, how would a native English speaker express this idea? For example, maybe you are taking care of your houseplants, and you think in your own language, I need to move this plant to a bigger container because the roots don't have any more space to grow. This is a perfect learning moment. Maybe you don't know the specific English verb to repot or the adjective root-bound. You can look them up and learn. I need to repot this plant because it is root-bound. Now, you are learning useful, specific English that is directly relevant to your own life, not just random words from a textbook. 2. Supercharge your voice journal. Recording yourself for 2 minutes every day is a great start. To really push your skills further, you can give yourself different topics for each day of the week. For example, on Monday, talk about your goals for the week. This will practice the future tense. On Tuesday, describe a favorite memory from your childhood. This will practice the past tense and storytelling. On Wednesday, talk about a news story you read and give your opinion on it. On Thursday, explain how to do something you are good at, like cooking a certain dish or fixing something. On Friday, talk about your plans and hopes for the upcoming weekend. This structure forces you to practice many different skills. You are not just talking about what happened today. You are practicing expressing opinions, giving instructions, and sharing your feelings. 3. Think in arguments. Once you are comfortable narrating your life and making small decisions in English, you can start to have small internal debates with yourself. These don't have to be about serious topics. For example, I want to watch a movie tonight. Should I watch a comedy or a thriller? A comedy would be relaxing, but I watched a good thriller last week and I want to see something similar. On the other hand, I have to wake up early tomorrow, so maybe a thriller is too exciting. A good movie is a good movie, though. Okay, I'll watch the thriller. Do you see what you are practicing here? You are using connector words like but, so, because, and on the other hand. You are building logical arguments and connecting your ideas. This is a big step toward true fluency because it helps you to think clearly and logically in English, not just speak in simple sentences. Learning to think in English is not something that happens overnight. It is much more like building a muscle. You can't go to the gym one time and expect to be strong. Similarly, you can't study English hard for one day and expect to speak fluently. The people who become the most fluent are not always the smartest or the most talented. They are the people who are the most consistent. Some days will feel easy, and some days will feel hard. That is a normal part of the process. The important thing is to keep going, to to do a little bit every day. Practicing for 20 minutes every single day is much more effective than trying to study for 5 hours just once a week. It's the small, daily habits that truly train your brain, strengthen your fluency, and make English start to feel natural over time. Let's quickly review what we have learned together today. We started by understanding that translating in your head is what slows you down, makes your English sound unnatural, and keeps you trapped in student mode. The key to fluency is to activate your automatic, native speaker mode. This means training your brain to think directly in English instead of translating. Here are the practical steps you can take. Starting today, start small with labels. Look around your room and name objects in English: chair, table, lamp. Narrate your daily actions. Think simple sentences about what you are doing. I am making coffee. I am stirring the milk. Create an English immersion bubble. Change the language on your phone, computer, and social media to English. Watch movies and listen to music, podcasts, and audiobooks in English. Use an English to English dictionary. This builds a strong network of connections between English words in your brain. Collect language chunks. Find common phrases like, by the way, or I see what you mean, and practice using them. Try shadowing it. Listen to a native speaker and speak along with them, copying their rhythm and sounds. And finally, have real conversations. Start small, ask good questions, and remember that the goal is communication, not perfection. Every mistake you make is a lesson that helps your brain learn and improve. You now have all the tools you need. You have the steps, the exercises, and the mindset to start speaking English more fluently, more naturally, and more confidently. The fluent English speaker that you want to become is already inside you. They are just waiting for you to unlock them through new habits and consistent daily practice. The journey will take time, but every small sentence you think in English, every short conversation you have, every new chunk you learn is a victory. Each step is building your fluency muscle, making it a little bit stronger. Thank you so much for joining me today on English in Advance. My name is Jessica. I hope you feel inspired and empowered to start your journey toward faster, more natural English speaking. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to turn on the notifications so you never miss a new lesson. Until next time, keep practicing, be patient with yourself, and enjoy the process of learning English every single day.